showing. Our next speaker, Vidhya Ramalingam, is the CEO and founder of Moonshot. It's an organization using technology to end online harms, using evidence, ethics, and human rights approaches. Vidhya led the European Union's first intergovernmental initiative on far-right terrorism and extremism, which was initiated by governments of Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland, and the Netherlands, and helped to launch the EU's Commissioner for Home Affairs. She regularly advises governments and tech companies on responding to terrorism, hate, and violence online. And work of Moonshot is instrumental in understanding how down to the postal code, how hate information searches and trends are influencing individuals, but also others online through radicalization. So thank you so much, Vidhya, for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you all and to all the previous speakers. As mentioned, my name is Vidhya Ramalingam, founder and CEO of Moonshot. It's already been mentioned in this session that we cannot ignore the role of the internet in facilitating hate, and that's what I want to talk about today. I should start by saying I'm not a technologist by trade. My background is in the fight against white supremacy and hate. About 13 years ago, I spent 2 years doing field work with a group of white nationalists, and I was really looking to understand what motivated people to join those sorts of movements and also to leave. And since then, I've dedicated my career to working to get people out of those kinds of movements, to get people out of hate movements. And there are reasons to be optimistic in this fight, and I know you'll hear later from Tony McAleer, a very good friend of mine. We need to only look at Tony's story and other stories like his to be encouraged about what's possible in this fight. But for me, technology gives us the power and the evidence on the spread of hate online and the power to reach people who are going down this path and to actually intervene in their journey. And as Ryan so beautifully articulated earlier, what the tech companies are doing to respond is not enough. Regulation is important and better content moderation is critical. But removal of content will not stem this kind of violence on its own. And this is for 3 reasons. There are still many spaces on the internet which are unmoderated and not liable to bans or takedowns, and where this content can and will continue to thrive. Platforms like 4chan, 8kun, the darker corners of the internet, there will always be places online where this content thrives and which will not be affected by the kinds of regulation that will affect the big tech platforms. But secondly, so much of this content may not be eligible for takedowns, even according to the terms of services and policies of the tech companies themselves, large and small. So often hate groups walk the line, they use code words, they do it deliberately, and they do it very well to keep their content online. And the third reason why content moderation is not enough on its own is when content is removed, yes, the post or the account is deleted, and that absolutely contributes to a safer internet online, but the individual who posted that comment still exists in the world around us. They're not deleted, and they may either continue to repost online, move to another platform, or may be deeply vulnerable and might pose a threat to the community around them in an offline setting. So I fully agree, content moderation is absolutely critical, but we need to go so much further than that and genuinely invest in prevention of anti-Asian hate, both online and offline. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the data underpinning the work we do to prevent hate online. Going back to 2019, Moonshot started studying Canadian engagement with hate content on search engines in February of 2019, so pre-pandemic. In a little over a year, we tracked over 170,000 individual searches for violent extremist and hate content online across Canada. There were searches specifically for white supremacist content in every province and territory in Canada. And as Canadians spent more time online, as all of us spent more time online as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns, engagement only increased. We saw searches for far-right hate content increase 19% weekly during lockdown measures in Canada. In Ottawa, we tracked a 35% increase in attempts to access hate content on search engines after Ontario's state of emergency was declared. And we've seen greater engagement with conspiracy theories in the last several years. So over the span of a year, we tracked over 25,000 searches across Canada for white supremacist conspiracy theories such as the Great Replacement, white genocide, and other theories. We've seen a really worrying escalation in hate against all communities across Canada and North America more broadly. but I want to stand up here and hold myself accountable. In the study of violent extremism and hate online, data specifically on the spread of anti-Asian hate has been vastly undercollected and underanalyzed. And when Yusuf invited me to participate in this event today, I actually initially turned him down and said, I don't have enough data to share specifically on anti-Asian hate online in Canada. We're starting to collect that, but I don't feel like I have robust enough data, not compared to the other forms of hate that we've monitored and worked on over the years. And Yusuf encouraged me to join you all and to speak about this, even the undercollection issue. And I'm so glad I joined you, especially given the importance of this subject. We cannot rely on victims and survivors to report in order to fully know the scale of this kind of hate online. And we are only at the start of a journey to paint a full picture on the scale and spread of anti-Asian hate in a country like Canada. All of that said, in our initial assessments, we know we need to be worried. We've tracked several core narratives that are often employed by hate groups and hate actors, specifically against Asian communities online. So I'm going to run through some of these key narratives that we're tracking and monitoring and that we're seeing escalations in. It's already been mentioned that COVID-19 did not start anti-Asian hate, that anti-Asian hate predated the pandemic, but the pandemic accelerated it drastically. So from our work south of the border in the US, as quickly as April 2020 at the start of the pandemic, we tracked a 300% increase in the use of hashtags that encouraged or incited violence against Asian communities. And anti-Asian conspiracy theories dominated conspiracy theory discourse across social media platforms in North America in 2020. Other narratives we've tracked online include sexual violence against Asian women in particular, attempts to rationalize or justify violence against the Asian community following violent attacks, and creating and exploiting supposed tensions between minority groups and with other minority groups. So in particular, framing Asian and other minority communities as oppositional to each other. So we have reason to be worried, but we need to address the lack of sustained data on online hate against Asian communities, and we need targeted programs online to address it. And in the past year at Moonshot, we have ramped up our data collection on this topic, and we'd really like to work with those here speaking or listening today, with universities, with NGOs, with other partners, to make better data available, and once again, not to rely on victims and survivors to report in order to understand the scale of this alone. And we need to use this data to better underpin prevention, to underpin better support to victims and survivors, and to end this kind of hate. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you.
Thank you, Vidhya. Tark and I always love hearing from you because you're always having the most up-to-date information on this threat. In fact, one of the reasons that Tark always suggests that we include you is because the holistic background that you can have on this is unique. It really is, down to the postal code, real-time almost data, specific communities, what the hate search terms are, what is, and we always bring up the example of remove kebab for the Muslim community and how many people don't know what that means. We've done other events where we went into that in a lot of detail, but the importance of Moonshot's work cannot be overstated. Again, thank you very much, Vidhya. We appreciate it. We know there's always time zone issues as well. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today.